Welcome back. That was a great break. I needed it. I took some time to dance a little bit and sip on some water, but I am excited for this next presenter. She is like family, MESSA family. Some of you who have been to our past Worksite Wellness Conference have had the opportunity to experience being in the room with Kristen Brogan, and she's here today with us virtually. For those of you that don't know, Kristen Brogan is the executive chef now to a government official for the state of Michigan. She also works as a consulting dietitian for a family's health and performance company called On Target Living. We're very familiar with On Target Living, where she provides speaking engagements and wellness retreats for organizations and business executives. And she'd probably love to come out to some of your schools. Kristen is the author of Target to Table, Health and Delicious Meals, One Superfood at a Time. She's a certified yoga instructor and a personal trainer. She teaches a lifestyle that blends mindful eating, mindful movement, and mindful resting to build your whole self. Her dream is to one day have her own cooking show on the Food Network titled Mindfully Delicious. Kristen, we have our fingers crossed for you, because if anybody can do it, you can do it. Welcome to the platform, Kristen.
Thanks, Rhonda. I know I miss seeing everyone in person. I love hanging out with your group. So thank you for having me back. Hello, everyone. If you've seen me in the past, I'm back. I know we still are living this virtual world, but hopefully not for too much longer. So today we're kind of building on the whole mood and, feeling good. Obviously, we all want to feel good. We're going into kind of the winter months. So today is all about mood and food and just how to get kind of a renewed type energy back. I know it's getting really dark in the mornings and I'm going on 38 weeks pregnant. So I'm kind of struggling myself sometimes with getting, energized and motivated to get up in the morning, but food is a huge piece of that. So today we're going to kind of talk about food, but in a way that's fun, that's educational. I think when it comes to food, there's so much information out there that it can be very confusing. It can leave us kind of stressed out. And right now, when so many things in this world are complicated, eating shouldn't be. So that's the goal today. And when we think about, being in a positive mood and happiness, it doesn't mean that we walk around all day smiling. It just means that we're living a positive life experience, right? For the most part, we're feeling good. We're feeling energized. And I think so much of that has to do with kind of food. Now, when we think about being in a positive mood and being happy, I think it's something that we're all striving for. No matter who we are, it's our greatest desire as humans. We go after the new job, the new car, the babies, getting married, all these different things in hopes that it will make us happy. Or we go on these diets hoping that we can lose weight and that will make us happy. So really everything we do in this world revolves around being happy, being in a good mood. And I think sometimes, we're constantly waiting for that happiness, whether it is, we wait all week for Friday, we wait all year for summer, we wait our whole entire lifetime for happiness. And I think sometimes we have to kind of get out of that waiting mindset and understand that no matter how hard we look, we can't find happiness. We can't find it in a book. And that's because happiness is an emotion, it's a feeling, and it begins when we start feeling it. So we can't just find it. We have to live and eat our way to happiness. And I think at On Target Living, if you've heard us talk before, so much of a positive life experience is food. And the reason that I say this is because in order to feel happy, in order to feel like you're in a good mood, feeling energized, the body has to produce serotonin. Now, 90% of serotonin comes from the gut, comes from the foods that we eat. So food has such an impact on mood. And I think it's something that we can actually control right now. There's still a lot of uncertainty in this world, but one thing that we can control is what we put in our mouths, what we put in our body. So, thinking about how can food bring us, this positive life experience or make us in a good mood. And that's because food has a direct impact on producing serotonin. So there's this thing called the gut-brain connection, that what you put in your gut actually affects your brain and your mood. And I think we're finding too that a lot of people who experience anxiety or depression also have irritable bowel syndrome, or they have digestive related issues. So everything's connected. Now, the biggest foods that produce serotonin in the gut to make our brain feel happy and in a good mood are whole foods. And the reason for this is because whole foods are loaded in pre and probiotics. So we're talking a lot about good bacteria. How can we put good bacteria in the gut from whole foods that can actually boost our immune system and also make us feel happy? You know, we all want to live healthy and have that strong immune system right now. And it really does come down to these whole foods. Anything that rots, anything that has these live digestive enzymes will actually fuel the gut. So helps to balance that good and bacteria in the gut. It also helps to kind of nourish the lining of the gut. So sometimes when we're eating a lot of foods that maybe are processed, are not very healthy, spicy foods, you know, too much sugar, soda pop, all those things can really weaken the lining of the gut, can cause inflammation, and then that can cause leaky gut, where food particles actually get into the bloodstream, and that causes an autoimmune response. It can kind of manifest as allergies or skin issues or asthma. So just thinking about how we can start with eating foods that actually nourish us, nourish our bodies, nourish our minds as well. Because this gut-brain connection is real. And I think, you know, our food really impacts our mood. And I think it's something that we really want to kind of target in now. We're finding too that a lot of times food can have a huge impact. You know, a lot of times we're starting with medications or certain supplements when we really need to start with the basics. It can provide, you know, the same benefits, if not more, when it comes to kind of boosting your mood and feeling healthy from the inside out. Now, I know we talk a lot about food at On Target Living, and I think now as an executive chef, you know, I talk a lot more about food because I think it is a language we can understand. You know, while food is very complicated, we've made it complicated, it shouldn't be. I think food is love, it's connection, it's social, but we need to understand it more in order to understand how to eat healthier. So when we think about food, we know that everything in this world is centered around food. You know, we grieve with food, we celebrate with food. Every single occasion in this world centers around food. So let's kind of dive into understanding a little bit better, and also, you know, thinking about some of these diets we hear on the market. You know, a lot of these diets actually don't make us feel good, right? We want to eat in a way that actually makes us feel healthy and happy. And many of these diets, they're nothing new. They're just reintroduced in a new way, whether it's keto or paleo, not much different than the Atkins diet. But I think first and foremost, we have to step back and say, well, why are there so many diets on the market? Well, we know because they don't work. They're not sustainable. They're not enjoyable long-term. You know, if we're depriving ourselves of certain nutrients, it's going to be really hard to be in a good mood or to live our best self. It's impossible to have a healthy immune system if we're giving up fruit, which is loaded in pre and probiotics, which the gut needs. It's going to be impossible to be in a good mood if we're giving up carbohydrates, especially grains. So grains are loaded in B vitamins. They're essential for optimal brain health. So I'm talking about, you know, farro and quinoa and rolled oats and things that are in their natural state. So we have to understand that we can't really give anything up. And I think first and foremost, no one wants to give anything up. It doesn't make anyone happy, because happiness really is found in kind of the balance of eating for purpose, eating for pleasure, not living on these extremes when it comes to food. Now, I always share my story of growing up on the extreme side of healthy, where, you know, I grew up with this dad who was a personal trainer, and we were always into fitness and health and superfoods. And we grew up eating wheatgrass and cod liver oil, and all of our family vacations revolved around some form of exercise. Now, this was a great life. It was all I ever knew. I always felt good as a kid. But I also, as I got older, started to realize that my lifestyle was so much different than my friends' lifestyle. I started going over to friends' houses more and going on family vacations with friends. And I suddenly felt like I was missing out, and I was living on the extreme side of food when it came to my health. And so I decided to kind of take matters into my own hands, become a total rebel, and live on the extreme side of unhealthy, where I was eating fast food all the time. I was working at Johnny Rockets. burger restaurant and just kind of, eating the foods that I felt like I was missing out on. And while I thought it was the life, I soon gained weight. I was diagnosed with asthma. I was put on an inhaler, and my whole life turned upside down. And I realized that I needed to eat in my own way, eat in a way that actually made me feel good. And while my dad thought of food as fuel, my mom thought of food as love, because she comes from this giant Lebanese family where food is the center of everything. And she learned how to make food actually taste good. And that's what she helped me to do, was take a lot of these superfoods my dad brought home, turn them into meals that I grew up loving, that I never felt like I was missing out on. And then I was more mindful of what I was putting in my body. I was eating for purpose and pleasure. I wasn't giving up the things that I loved. I was just finding ways to make it better. And I think that's where we can really start with food. Is it's so much harder to give up than it is to make better. So if you love potato chips, don't give them up, just find a better potato chips. And we'll get kind of into some strategies to help you, find healthier foods. And so once I started incorporating this lifestyle, I put together this cookbook with my brother, Matt. I'll make some recipes today. I lost that weight. I got off my inhaler. My asthma magically disappeared. That's where I realized that we can really heal our body from the inside out with food. And this leads me into kind of some mindful eating practices that can help us to improve our mood through the foods that we eat, but also that bigger philosophy when it comes to food. Now, mindful eating, the first rule, and I think while the science of nutrition is always changing, one thing that will never change when it comes to food is our common sense. And I think this is where we can really start when it comes to taking the confusion out of food. So we're using our intuition, we're using our sixth sense. We know when we use our common sense, it makes no sense to drop butter in our coffee for weight loss. And I know some of you are probably thinking, people do this? Yes, it's a fad. There's a lot of things where we're hearing, butter helps with weight loss. So people are doing this to jumpstart their metabolism. But I'm here to tell you there's no benefit to putting butter in your coffee. And you might as well put butter on something that's worth it. So I think coffee is just good as is. We don't need to mess it up. And I think as we start to use our common sense with some of the things that we hear, we can kind of help to navigate the food world a little bit better. And of course, like we just saw the session where we did some movement. We know that, movement really helps with our energy levels. We know that energy is not made in a can. We have to make our own energy. We can't manufacture energy with an energy drink or lots of caffeine. We have to make it. And food is a huge component of our fuel source, of course. And then using our common sense, I think, we need to kind of get out of that mindset of calories. We know that calories are not created equal. They will never be created equal. So instead of counting calories for weight loss or to be healthy, we need to start looking at quality, because food is information for the body. And when we put the right ingredients in our body, it knows what to do. I think that's the easiest way to explain it. As a dietitian, I never talk about calories because I think it's just another form of dieting. And it doesn't make sense for people. No one wants to count calories the rest of their life. So when we think about, looking at upgrading the quality of our calories, we need to make sure we're choosing foods that have a healthy ingredient list. There's nothing real about these plant-based burgers that are on the market. While they look good from the outside, right? There's zero cholesterol and less sodium and all these different things that from the surface level we're seeing. We know that when we dive into the ingredients, there's nothing real about these. And when we put these foods in our body doesn't know what to do. And this is the cause of inflammation in the gut. This is the cause of sometimes, that those mood changes that we feel. We know when we don't eat good food, we don't feel good. And it really starts with real ingredients. So looking at ingredients, another number one indicator of quality. When we use our common sense, we know that, our nutrients shouldn't come from a pill. We don't eat nutrients. We don't eat vitamin C. We don't eat calcium. We eat food. So when we start to eat food in their perfect whole food packages, that's where we start to fix some of our specific issues. So just understanding that we don't want to pay more to get less. I think we can eat food that's very affordable just by going to the basics, fruits and vegetables and things like that. Now, this whole fasting, back to kind of common sense, this fasting movement, many of us are doing intermittent fasting. There's nothing wrong with fasting, but I think we have to do it in a more sustainable, common sense approach where we're doing it during the overnight hours. So rather than depriving yourself all day when we need that energy, when we need to be in a good mood, we can just do a 12 to 14 hour fast overnight. So from the time you eat dinner to the time you eat breakfast, you want it to be between a 12 and 14 hour gap. And that gives the gut time to rest and digest and do what it needs to do. And it's much more sustainable for people is what we find. And then of course, just using the food target as your guide. Now, some of you may have seen this before. We have it in the cookbook. Basically, it's just a mindful eating guide. You're mindful about how you're balancing your meals and your snacks. You're not giving anything up. You're making everything better as you go closer to the center of the food target. And we have this on our website. You can print it out. You can take it to the grocery store, but this is kind of your guide to showing you how to eat in a more mindful way. Now, what all these foods have in common on the food target and close to the center is they're all close to the source. And I think if we think about being a mindful eater for mood and understanding food a little bit better, the number one thing we can do besides using our common sense is choosing foods closest to the source, foods in their natural state. And that's because nothing is off limits. We don't have to give anything up in this world if it's close to the source. So thinking about, foods that don't even have an ingredient list, right? That don't even have a nutrition facts label. We know not only are they going to be healthy, they're going to be delicious too, because food and flavor comes from nutrients. So just understanding how to try to incorporate more whole foods, and we can't go wrong. We know an apple is the first source, and then you go into the processed forms. And that's where I think sometimes we get confused when it comes to food. People are taking shots of apple cider vinegar. We can get the same benefits from just eating an apple. So don't pay more to get less. There's these apple cider vinegar gummies people are buying. People are so concerned with supplements because they're not doing the basics. So back to those whole foods that really help the gut thrive. Again, there's that gut-brain connection. 90% of serotonin is made in the gut through the foods that we eat. And that's a huge indicator of how we're going to feel during the day. Now, one of the raw materials that boost serotonin is carbohydrates. And guess what? Our most popular diet on the market is low carb diet. There's no coincidence that we have the highest rates of depression because we're not eating in a way that actually makes us feel good. Potatoes make us happy, right? Carbohydrates make us happy. We have to go closer to the source, and nothing really is off limits. Even chocolate. Chocolate is great, especially if it's close to the source in its raw form, which is called cacao. It's loaded in calming magnesium. It actually makes us feel calm. It can help to reduce anxiety. We get it from cacao. We get it from nuts and seeds and leafy greens. So always going back to the source, and you can't go wrong. No food should stump you. If you're eating a certain food or someone tells you about a certain supplement, you want to make sure that you always go as close to its natural form as possible. Now, the reason people are so into supplements is because they're not doing the basics. Where do these supplements or these multivitamins come from? They come from food. So simply by eating more whole foods, we can really tackle all of our nutritional needs. And really, many of our lifestyle issues stem from poor quality foods or just a poor lifestyle. We can't outwork a bad lifestyle. We have to kind of take time for ourselves. When we start to make our lifestyle better, a lot of these issues will go away. And that's really the power of the human body. Now, our future medicine cabinet should be food because that's what food does. It's healing. It's been used as medicine for so many years. Now, if you've seen an On Target Living presentation, we never leave home without talking about cod liver oil and some of these superfoods. There's no reason to supplement with anything, with collagen, with multivitamins, with any powders or proteins, if you're getting these two nutrients in, omega-3s and chlorophyll. This is the nutrition. This is the foundation from a nutrition standpoint. In fact, this is my prenatal vitamin, and I'm just bumping up kind of my dosage while I'm pregnant right now. I give it to my 2-year-old son. So it's kind of just it's the foundation from a nutrition standpoint. If you have these nutrients in your diet, you don't need to supplement with anything. Omega-3s, the most powerful form will be a good quality cod liver oil. This is not your grandmother's cod liver oil. It's organic lemon flavor. It should taste good. It shouldn't be fishy. Cod liver oil is going to be the #1 source of omega-3s, not only because it's loaded in natural omega-3s, but also it's loaded in vitamin D. And many of us are deficient in vitamin D. We're finding a correlation between people getting COVID and having low vitamin D levels. So it is a great way to boost immune system. But what omega-3s do is they help with our mood, our brain health, our heart health, hormonal health. Keep in mind, you can't lose weight unless your hormones are balanced. So many women, especially I work with, they can't lose weight. They're deficient in omega-3s. 95% of people are deficient in omega-3s. So once we get that good fat in their body, then they can improve their metabolism, their hormones, lower inflammation, because that's what it does. So getting that in from kind of a cod liver oil standpoint is going to be very, very beneficial and very easy. Now, the other nutrient that many of us are missing is chlorophyll. And this is going to be very cleansing and digesting, very good for detoxing and kind of building that immune system, which again, we're all trying to do. So this comes from anything green in color. The most powerful sources are wheatgrass and spirulina chlorella. Spirulina chlorella is a freshwater algae. It comes in little pills that you can swallow. And then wheatgrass comes in ice cube form, which you can drop in a glass of water and drink first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Now, we have so many resources on our website on targetliving.com where you can see, how much you need, what it does, why it does it, and then where to get this, of course. And again, you want to make sure that you're choosing foods close to the source of highest quality. And that's really what we do at On Target Living. So food first, we want to make sure that we cover all of our bases, and then there's no reason to have to supplement. Now, this is my little guy, Brady, at home. He's 2.5, so this is about a year ago. But I just want to show you how easy it is to take some of these foods. So again, this may feel overwhelming to you. You may never have heard about these foods. These are just real foods, as close to the source as possible. And these are the nutrients that most of us are missing. So I want to show you just how easy it is to incorporate. So this is what we do every morning at our house. Ideally, you want to spread out these superfoods, but they're so easy. And I think, when we start to kind of tackle the basics, that's where a lot of our lifestyle issues will start to go away. If we start to incorporate omega-3s and chlorophyll, we really cover all of our bases. We don't need to do anything else. And again, we try to make it really easy on Target Living. Now, there's also some nutrients that are great for stress and anxiety. I think, with mental health at its all-time high, and many of us are struggling with mood issues, we can actually sometimes eat our stress away, but not in the way that you think with, chocolate cake and potato chips, but with magnesium-rich foods. #1 mineral to become depleted when we're stressed, which most of us are, is magnesium, and that's our calming mineral. So getting it through the foods that we eat. Cacao, I mentioned, is the raw form of chocolate. You could do cacao nibs, which I'll show you how to incorporate today. Dried mangoes, dates, figs, nuts, seeds, wheatgrass is loaded in magnesium. Greens, kale, all of this stuff is loaded in magnesium. Even mineral water, like a San Pellegrino, is a really good way to get magnesium in. Taking Epsom salt baths is a really good way, especially if you feel like your body's inflamed or sore. You know, everything kind of impacts our mood. So obviously when we feel better, when we put these foods in our body, we're going to be in a better mood. We're going to feel better. We're going to have more energy. So simple things we can do. And again, it really does start with food. Now, the most powerful form of mindful eating, I think this is where we can have a lot of fun with food, is cooking. And that's because cooking stimulates all 5 of our senses. It makes us feel complete. You know, growing up with my mom in the kitchen, we would spend, you know, hours rolling grape leaves. I remember one time we rolled 2,000 grape leaves. And by the time we sat down to eat, we were already satisfied. You know, just the whole act of cooking and using your hands and smelling and tasting and chopping. Cooking is very meditative. There's a mindfulness aspect about food. And I think sometimes when we take away the cooking piece, we actually find that we eat more. So the less time we spend cooking, the more time we spend eating. And, you know, I think sometimes with COVID, when we were kind of in the routine of ordering pizza or ordering in, we weren't going out as much. You know, by the time you'd get your food, you'd eat it in 5 minutes and then you'd want a dessert. There's a missing link sometimes when we're ordering takeout or we're doing those kind of quick meals without actually preparing the food that we eat. And of course, none of us want to spend a lot of time in the kitchen, but I think when we think about the story of food, that really is the most powerful. You know, we don't remember the things that we buy, but we do remember the meals that we eat and who we eat them with. It really binds us together. And I think today, as we end this program, our story really starts with a couple dishes that I think will help us to feel renewed and rejuvenated, especially now that it's fall, it's dark out, it's getting colder. It's a gloomy day today, and food has such a huge impact on our mood. So I want to show you how to incorporate some of these things and how to make the cooking process easy. You know, I am a chef during the days, so most of my days are spent cooking. Sometimes I get home and I don't want to do anything, and I still cook, but it doesn't have to be anything gourmet or elaborate. I always tell people, you know, do your spaghetti, do your chilies, do your tacos. You know, do your basic things, but make all of your ingredients better. You know, use grass-fed beef instead of, you know, your regular conventional beef for burgers, or try ground bison, or, you know, choose healthier pastas. So simple things like that you can do. So as we kind of get into the cooking component, I think is a fun way to feel renewed and rejuvenated. I want to just show you how to whip up some really healthy and delicious treats that are from the cookbook that anyone can do. It's tailgate season 2, so these are really good recipes to incorporate. Okay, so we're going to start with the superfood salad. And I'm going to start with just making the dressing. Dressings are so easy to make. They're going to be less expensive than going to the grocery store. Obviously, they're going to be healthier. This is a really fun one because I'm using pomegranate juice, just 100% pure pomegranate juice, about a half a cup. We have all the recipes in the cookbook with exact measurements, but this will be a good way to sweeten the salad. So we're going to have kind of all the taste, all the sweetness, the sour, the savory, without having to add sugar or any other poor ingredients. So we're going to have about a half a cup of pomegranate juice. Now we're going to add about a tablespoon of red wine vinegar. I love using vinegars in dressing. I think most of the time I'll do a 1-to-1 ratio of a vinegar to an olive oil with some salt and pepper for a dressing. If you want it more creamy, you could add a little Dijon mustard to it. If you have digestive issues, maybe you do have some gut health issues, maybe you find that maybe you have a serotonin imbalance, you can do apple cider vinegar. That's a really great vinegar to use. That's very cleansing. Now we're going to add about a 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil. So again, when you're cooking, you want to make sure that you try to incorporate just 1 ingredient foods. So I'm using good quality foods. I'm using good quality oils. Extra virgin olive oil is really what you want to look for. My go-to oils are extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil. I use that a lot for baking or making eggs. And then avocado oil if I'm doing really high heat cooking. So if I'm making, you know, French fries or stir fries, I'll use avocado oil. And then I'm just going to do a little bit of salt. I'm using good quality sea salt, so it's loaded in minerals. Helps to kind of balance the pH of the body. Helps us to not deplete our minerals so much. And then I'm going to put in a little bit of turmeric. So turmeric is very anti-inflammatory. So incorporating that in spice form, again, I'm all about food first. So you don't need a turmeric, supplement. You don't need a magnesium supplement. You really want to start with food. Even during the day, if I feel like I need a boost of energy in the afternoon, I'll get like a ginger turmeric tea. And it's a really good way to kind of boost, help with digestion, but also kind of boost your mood and energy. So anytime we can add colorful spices, colorful foods, that will help to lower that inflammation. So this is our dressing. So I'm just going to whisk this up. And then I just have my bowl of kale here. Now there's lots of different forms of kale. This is just your traditional kale, and I already buy it chopped up. And then there's also Toscano kale, which is a little bit lighter. It's not as kind of coarse as regular kale. So if you don't like kale, you could do spinach, you could do a different kind of kale, you could do lettuce. I'm just going to drizzle this all over the salad here. So it's the nice light vinaigrette. And then the key with kale salads, because I think sometimes salads can be very boring. I get sick of salads. It's just, some people are bored of kind of vinaigrettes. Again, you could add a little Dijon mustard to make it creamier. But what you want to do for kale salads is you really want to incorporate the dressing into the greens. Now, I find if I can massage the dressing into the greens, it helps to break them down a little bit. So they're much tastier, they're much tenderer when I'm adding all my ingredients, and it makes for a better salad. So just massaging that in there, you'll find it goes a long way. Even just dressing and tossing your salads will make it much more tastier. And then we're just going to add the toppings. So this is a superfood salad. Obviously, we're starting with some greens, which are the base. Greens are loaded in chlorophyll, as I mentioned, very detoxifying and cleansing. And then I'm going to put in some carrots and some red onions. So again, we're adding all the flavors. We're adding a lot of color. So we know that it's going to be anti-inflammatory. Colorful fruits and vegetables all have a lot of antioxidants, and that helps to lower that inflammation. Now we're going to put a little bit of chia seeds. So good omega-3s on here as well. Some pumpkin seeds. So we have these omega-6 fats, which are really great at balancing hormones, helping with aging. They're loaded in zinc, which is also really good at boosting the immune system. We have some goji berries. So just a lot of flavor we're adding here. And then a good source of protein is just edamame. These are just shelled organic soybeans. So we're just throwing some on there. And that just adds kind of a savory umami flavor to the salad. And then a little bit of sweet. We have the goji berries, but we're also going to add some blueberries. So you can see how colorful this is, how pretty it is. And then we're just going to toss it up. And that's our salad. And this kale salad is really nice because you could make it at the beginning of the week and then you can have it for leftovers. It's not going to get soggy like, your traditional green salad. So again, very, very colorful, a great way to kind of boost mood, boost our energy. We know that food is fuel. You can see how colorful it is. And of course, you can mix and match your nuts. You can make it your own, but that's just a good base for superfood salad. Now, the next dish I want to make is a simple smoothie bowl. So acai bowls are kind of the new craze. I think sometimes smoothies can get very, very boring. My husband and I were just talking that we're just sick of breakfast. We're sick of oatmeal. We want something new. We want something fun. And a smoothie bowl is super easy, fun, and I feel like the whole family will love it. And it's a fun way to kind of get in the kitchen. So we're going to start with some frozen cherries. You're there. You're at the bottom of the freezer. Okay, so I love dark sweet cherries. I always have those in the freezer. They're so flavorful. They're loaded in antioxidants. Cherries are also very high in magnesium. So again, if you feel stressed out, if you feel like you have anxiety, if you're struggling with mood, get magnesium in. Also, magnesium also helps with digestion as well. So just simple things that you can do, you know, just basically from getting foods closest to the source. So we're going to add about 2 cups of frozen cherries loaded in magnesium to a food processor. Now, also magnesium, not only does it help with mood, it also helps with sleep. So if you find you can't stay asleep at night, that's usually a sign you're deficient in magnesium. And we can do something about that. We can incorporate more magnesium in just from the foods that we eat. If you can't fall asleep at night, that's usually a sign that you're stressed, maybe your mind's going, maybe you have to incorporate a little bit more movement. Great way to wash the brain, of course. So we have our frozen berries here. And then we also have a recipe in the cookbook for a banana ice cream. And basically it's just frozen bananas blended in a food processor, and it turns into a frozen yogurt consistency. It's so delicious. So we're going to add 1 frozen banana. This kind of helps everything bind together. So the texture of the banana is kind of that consistency that you're looking for as you start to blend it. So we'll put that in. And then you want to make sure it'll kind of go from just a chopped kind of look to a creamy look. So keep blending it. Now, if you need a little oomph to it, we're going to put in just a little drizzle of coconut water. So about a tablespoon or so, just to help everything kind of mix well. Coconut water is very hydrating. So never drink sports drinks, anything that's blue or green in color, artificial colors. You can get the same benefits from just doing coconut water. It's an electrolyte drink. And it's super delicious. It adds kind of a sweetness to this. I'm just going to stir this up a little bit. So it's already looking good. I mean, you have your homemade ice cream kind of right here. And who doesn't like frozen yogurt? And then you can tap it with all your favorite things. So we'll just blend it a little bit more. Also, to sweeten it up, we're going to add about 4 dates. So I just have these dates. I'm going to take the pit out of them. Dates are very high in magnesium as well, and they'll add a very nice sweetness to this. So I'm just going to throw this in. So about 4 dates. And I love dates in any smoothies. Just a really good way to kind of sweeten it up. Okay, and now we're gonna add about a 1/4 cup of cashew butter. So I love finding any type of mixed nut butters, walnut butters, almond butters. You could do peanut butters too. Sometimes I just stay away from peanuts because of allergies out there. But again, if we're eating whole foods, it's gonna help to improve our gut health and help to kind of lower the risk of allergies or autoimmune issues. So getting more whole foods in. My son at daycare, they can't bring peanut butter into school, so sometimes we'll bring some snacks with sunflower butter, which is a good alternative too if you can't have any nut butters. But I love cashew butter. I love walnut butter. Lots of good options. You know, Costco, Sam's, all these grocery stores have all of these things. You just want to make sure you look at ingredients too. We'll blend this up. Okay, these food processors are amazing. They can do everything. So we have this little ice cream kind of consistency. It looks more like a frozen yogurt. So we're going to take this and we're just going to add it to a bowl. So this is going to be one giant smoothie bowl just for the sake of television here. So we'll throw it in. And of course, with healthy cooking, you want it to be healthy, but you also want it to look good. That's a huge component of this. So I'm just going to spread the mixture right along the bowl, the bottom of the bowl here. And this is the fun part. This is where you can get family involved and kind of make it fun. So just put it on the bottom here. Then we are going to make it pretty. So I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of coconut, so shredded coconut. So a nice healthy fat. Again, you can't go wrong when you use foods closest to the source. Nothing's closer than all these ingredients that we're using. I'm going to put a little goji berries on top because I love those. And then cacao nibs are really nice in smoothies. I put them in smoothies. I love them on a bowl. They add a nice crunchiness. So again, loaded in magnesium here. This is just raw chocolate. And then I have a little bit of homemade granola. And it just makes for a very fun breakfast. Now, if you wanted, you could drizzle with just a little bit of peanut butter right on top. And there's your smoothie bowl. So you just eat it like a breakfast bowl, if you can see here. So very, very colorful. And it kind of spices up your typical smoothie. And the base is so delicious. Dark cherries, we have peanut butter, we have dates, we have a frozen banana, a little bit of coconut water just to kind of blend things up. So there you have it. We're going to just finish with a couple slides and then we can open it up for questions here. But just different recipes you can make. You know, I obviously didn't cook anything. I just mixed. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to take you a lot of time. The recipes are in the cookbook. You can garnish with some mint on top. Again, it has to kind of look good too. Here we go. Okay. Now, as far as food goes, I think, you know, we can all get behind while food is complicated and we've made it complicated and we all talk food, we don't all talk food the same. I think a language we can all understand is that food is love, and it really is connection, especially not right now during this time of uncertainty, during times where we just need a little boost. I think food is such a good way to feel that. And of course, you know, it's not just food, it's about movement, it's about rest, you know, meditation, doing things that actually fuel you. Right now, I'm finding that because I'm pregnant, I only have a few weeks to go. My movement is very kind of limited, but I'm still moving. It doesn't have to be hard. It's just finding things that I like to do. You know, whether it's stretching or walking, it just has to be a little bit. You know, we don't work out to lose weight, we work out to feel good. That's really the benefit of all of this. So I'm going to turn it over for questions. If you have any questions about cooking or certain nutrients, we can kind of dive into a little bit of everything, but just understanding that gut-brain connection is real. We're learning a lot more about that, but it really does start in the gut through the foods that we eat.
Thanks, Kristen. I think we do have some questions in the chat. Let me check it out here. Go ahead, if you have a question, go ahead and unmute and go ahead and let us know. I thought I saw some questions in the chat. Is too much soy a bad thing? How do you know how much is enough?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I'm not a big believer in soy. I think there's a lot of other healthier foods out there. If you're getting soy from the source, like edamame, like we use, it's perfectly fine. But many soy products are going to be very processed. It also is a genetically modified crop if it's not grown organic. So I tend to stay away from soy, especially when it comes to like tofu and tempeh. A lot of times those are just processed forms of soy. There's a lot of ingredients in there. You know, I'm a big believer of plant-based as long as it is indeed from plants, or maybe you're getting, you know, instead of a soy burger, you're finding a brown rice, sweet potato, mushroom burger or something like that. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with a grass-fed beef burger. I think, you know, we probably all need to eat less meat, but where we want to start is improving the quality of our meat. So if you're doing soy milks, I'd switch over to more of a nut milk, like almond milk. Coconut milk's really good, cashew milk. I make my own milk at home. I soak cashews and then I blend it with water in a food processor, and it's super easy. It's less expensive. I put a little vanilla extract in there, and then I have my own homemade milk that doesn't have all the fillers in there. So again, I'm not a big fan of soy, only because it usually is a genetically modified crop, and you can get, you know, protein from a lot of other kind of sources. But I think in this salad, it's really great. And you can get organic edamame that's already been shelled right in the freezer section.
Great, thank you. Is there a good substitute for vinegar? Amanda has a question on it. Or can—
Yeah, I mean, instead of vinegars, you can do lemon or lime juice, or sometimes, because I agree, sometimes vinegars in dressings can just be too much. Sometimes I'll even squeeze in some fresh orange juice. So anytime you're adding a citrus or some sort of acidic, you know, item, that can help kind of to brighten up your dressing. So you could do that instead.
Excellent. Another question in the chat. What about oat milk?
Oat milk's really good. I think when it comes to anything, everything can fit in the diet as long as it's close to the source and you're looking at ingredients. There's some oat milks that have, you know, 20 ingredients. Many of those ingredients we can't pronounce. So the rule of thumb is less ingredients are best. And if you can't read it, you shouldn't eat it. So just be careful. I mean, there's a lot of healthy oat milks. You just have to look at ingredients and choose a better one simply by choosing less ingredients, of course. But really good. I like oat milk in coffee. I feel like it adds a nice creamy taste. In my coffee, I usually just buy organic half and half. I only use a little bit, but I like the way the half and half adds like that perfect color to the coffee. So it just, you find what you like, but getting as close to the source as you can.
Very nice, very nice. Any other questions? Any other questions? Excellent information. Delicious salad. I can't wait to make it.
I wish you guys could be here to eat it with me. That's the missing link today.
Right, exactly. And we're looking to the future. Our next conference, we're planning on the ground. We're going back to brick and mortar, guys. So we're excited about that. Yes, yes. And definitely visit the website On Target Living, and they can purchase the book there, correct, Kristen?
Yep. And they can get the superfoods there. You can learn all about the superfoods. We have a ton of free videos and content. So we're really a resource. Our office is in Bath, Michigan. If you haven't been here, feel free to stop by. We have a great team here, and we can kind of show you around and give you some taste of cod liver oil. If you're scared of it, you want to taste it before you buy it, come on in and we'll give you a shot of it.
Fabulous, fabulous. Well, thank you so much, Kristen.
Thank you for having me. I miss you. I hope to see you soon in person.